You may be wondering, how long does it take to join the United States military? The long answer is, it depends. The short answer is probably about a year, give or take. It depends on whether you're going enlisted or if you're going the officer route. It'll be a big difference in that capacity. Enlisted most likely will go shorter. You'll be able to get it faster because the process is a few less steps than it is if you're going the officer route. If you're going the officer route, you have a whole packet of information that you have to get together. You're gonna have a board, whether that's in person or just a group of people that is looking at your packet and deciding whether or not they're going to admit you into their branch as an officer for Air Force, Marine Corps, Army, or the Navy. Coast Guard too, I guess we'll throw them in there, even though they're Department of Homeland Security now. Sorry, I had to get it in there. So that's kind of the general gist between the two as far as timeline goes. But I'd say when I joined as an enlisted sailor in the Navy back in 2016, I started that process, and the whole thing from start to finish took somewhere between like a year and a half. Like going through medical, getting all my paperwork together, starting talking to one recruiter, switching over to another, because I started talking to the Army, that just wasn't really getting anywhere, and then I went over to the Navy, and things really started to move forward at that point. So, but from the time that I was like done with everything and like swore in to the time that I left to boot camp in the Navy, that alone was like 6 or 7 months. So the whole process for me took a little over a year at that point, and that was back in 2015, 2016. Now that I'm working on joining as an officer, I have been curious, and so I've looked into a bunch of different branches, but I started February 2024, January. I'm gonna say February 2024. I went and talked to an Air Force recruiter, so I kind of got some general information on how that all worked and how that all came together. And for them, it is anywhere from like a year to a year and a half. With the Air Force, they only have 1, maybe 2 boards a year for their officer selection, and it is highly competitive. The numbers that they gave me from the most recent boards went over the last 2 cycles when I was looking to join, then were both around 13 to 15% acceptance rate. And so highly competitive, a lot happening and a lot going on there, and very selective. You need really good credentials, really good scores on your tests, your entrance exams, the AFOQT. You really need the ability to have a good background, to score well, to have had a really high GPA, a whole lot of accolades, good letters of recommendation. You really need a really strong packet, and even then, there's no guarantee, because with those numbers of acceptance rate alone, you're probably looking at a chance that is less than if you were getting into an Ivy League school. And with the Marine Corps, the biggest thing there, honestly, is the age limits. You cannot be an officer in the Marine Corps if you are over the age of 28. That is the lowest of all the branches to be an officer. And beyond that, I only know a handful of details of actually how their whole process works, because it was never something that I looked into myself. And I am currently 31, 30 back then, so I was over the age requirement anyway. With the Navy and the Army, both of those processes are going to be different as well. They require different information to put a packet together. The Navy, there isn't a physical one where you do an interview. It's just a group of it's just paperwork that you put together that goes in front of a board, and they make their selection. And with the Army, you have both of those. You have an interview in front of 3 officers, which you do a panel interview with, and then after that, there's another board that is the big Army, which is just a group of people looking at the packets and making the decisions. Competitiveness, the Navy doesn't really put out good numbers. They're kind of more secretive about it, so it's hard to say what the acceptance rate is, but it is competitive as well. With the Army, I have seen those numbers, and it varies from board to board. Over the last 4 cycles, including the most recent cycle, I got that information from my recruiter today, and so this cycle was a bit more competitive, and they accepted 58% of their applicants, and I can give you the numbers on those. I'll put them in the description box below. Another one that I saw was around the same. The other 3 that I saw were it was a lot higher. It was more like low 80s to mid 80s percent, like around 85% for each 3 of the other board selections that I saw. So higher the chances to be an Army officer just off percentage wise. Again though, they're still going to be looking at a whole person. They want to see your letters of recommendation, they want to see how well you did in school, your GPA, other accomplishments that you've done, your essay that you write. All of this kind of comes together to determine what you're looking at for your officer selection. But the process, it involves a lot of paperwork on you, like places that you've lived, identification, going through the MEPS process and getting your medical evaluations done, any waivers that need associated with that, criminal records, background history, fingerprints, paperwork. Depending on the branch, could also be a physical test. There's going to be a written test of some kind, whether that's an ASVAB. That's all you need for the Army, regardless of whether you're going enlisted or OSFR. ASVAB across the board for anyone enlisted. I do think that nowadays there's also something called a PCAT exam. I know nothing about that. I've just heard the acronym and name, and I know that some people have taken it, so it could be either. And then for the officer branches, Army, ASVAB, Navy, you're going to take an OAR. Air Force, you're going to take an AFOQT, and I don't know about the Marine Corps. I'll have to look on that, and maybe I'll put that in the description box below too. So yeah, that's kind of what you're looking at timeline wise, and what is required of you in the process to get into enlisted or commissioned into the United States military. So just know that you're in for a long haul, but stick with it, and eventually it will work out for you. Even if you are going an officer route like me and you happen to be rejected the first time, I would encourage you to maybe try and go up for the next board, even if you don't get that one. Different branches have different amounts of time that they come around. Army, it's once a quarter. Air Force, twice a year. The Navy, you're probably going to be looking, depends on the type of job that you're going to have, but you're probably looking at around 3 or 4 boards a year ish. They tend to change their mind. So that's kind of what you're looking at. Best of luck to you. Again, if you are on the same journey as I am, and please leave comments down below. I want to know what questions you have about joining the military or just military life in general. Again, I am prior enlisted, so I may have some background, and I'm working on this officer journey and hopefully can answer any of those questions for you as well. Yeah, that's my story. Good luck.